Right, so this is Todd Atkins, and I'm here with Miguel Iturrate and Mike Davis of the Lights Up podcast, and we're going to talk about UFC 282, which is December 10th in Las Vegas, and the fact that it doesn't have a main event in there, and so we're going to kind of talk about what we think about a couple of things that are going on with that. And I guess I'd let Miguel start it out.
It does seem like for December is really not that far away. The UFC's calendar is, always announced in advance, and short of main event, short. What's the buzz? What's going on out there? And to me, the interesting thing is December 10th will be 2 years and 9 months since the last time John Jones entered the octagon.
Yeah.
And it will be something close to 18 months or something like that since Conor McGregor entered the octagon. So, 18 months should be long enough that Conor's probably ready to fight after that ugly, leg injury. He seems to be wanting to ready to fight on his main event. In the UFC, traditionally for Jones fights and McGregor fights, the UFC builds heat for a lot longer than 3 months. And so for them to announce a main event with those guys now would also seem to be a little bit odd. So to me, that just as capable of filling that spot would be like, Kamaru Usman's return, a Leon Edwards headline in London, and all of a sudden, you've got a completely different spin on it, but you're doing something big. You're doing a pay-per-view quality level show. You could go with some of the other weight classes and have a couple of championships there. And Jones and McGregor could continue to sit. The roster is now free of Nick Diaz, who also would have been in this category. The guy that why is he sitting on the sidelines when they need a main event guy for a big show and they're passing on him. So I think we mentioned it previously. I think that there is a call here for them to refresh their roster. And there are other people that are involved here. And Ngannou could headline that, but he probably won't,
Well, you got to look at it this way. Miguel, Todd, I think we can all agree. The heavyweight division is the crown jewel of any organization. It's something that they take the most pride in. So let's look at the heavyweights. You got Francis Ngannou, Miguel mentioned him. Stipe Miocic. Miguel, what's Stipe's last time he fought? And then you got John Jones, who moved up to heavyweight after many outside of the cage issues. Those three fighters in the last 9 years have fought less than Neil Magny, Donald Cerrone, and I think Kevin Holland. There might be one other person in that category. Those three fighters in a 1 year period, because they've got 6 fights in 9 years. Like that's not acceptable. It's either strong arming by the UFC, maybe some fragile fighters, or contract issues. But the heavyweight division in the UFC is in shambles right now. And there doesn't look like a short way out of that. Less than John Jones coming in fighting Stipe or Ngannou. It's the heavyweight division's a mess. Like they've concentrated really well in 125-pound division, made it exciting. I think they've taken some resources away from other areas and put them on like that 125, title, which is actually legitimately really exciting. But the heavyweight division is suffering because of that. That's my personal opinion.
Now I know, Mike, you kind of have your ideas about if John Jones is going to fight at all. Do you think we're going to see him on that card or no?
I went on record within 10 days of his last incident in Vegas and said, we're not going to see him fight again. So I still stand by that. Like he was supposed to fight this year. First it was it like April, then September, and then maybe rumblings of November. And, now we're heading down the, final stretch of 2023, and he's still nowhere to be found. this is the MMA conspiracy hour. I get that, but like we had initially thought that John was serving a secret suspension. Like we all of us were like off the record going, man, maybe he's serving a suspension or something like that. He's also like since then his wife and family has left him, so he's living alone. So the lifestyle that he would have to keep in check because he had people in his house, which he very rarely did. He's kind of at his own free will, so he might be on the receiving end of his own suspension because he can't get ready for a bout. Got kicked out of his gym. Went to a satellite school. Greg Jackson followed him. It didn't show unity with Wink. I'm sure that didn't go over well. It's interesting.
At the end of the day, Jones is worth money, in the ring to everybody. The UFC makes money when he's there. They've proven that time and again. Yet he's sitting, and I wonder if it is, personal problems that have popped up on his end anymore. But then that begs the question: what's the problem with McGregor? What's the problem with some of the other guys? What was all the problem with Nick Diaz? Every one of them presents a different angle on the same problem. It's like, why are they not in the ring? Nick Diaz wasn't carrying John Jones' baggage, but they made it very difficult for him. And Connor has his own baggage, but it's not John Jones' baggage. And Connor probably becomes less a commodity the more you let time go by.
They say, Miguel, Conor McGregor in the last 18 months has not submitted one sample to the USADA testing pool. Now, I heard that from a reliable source. I did not see it with my own eyes. But if you look at his Instagram videos, man, dude looks yoked. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's snorting stem cells, but man, that dude's on something.
Yeah, it's arguable what that's going to do when he's got to get back in the ring. Again, the more time goes by, the more baggage he'll carry walking into that cage one way or another. Whether he's already banked enough money that he doesn't have to do it anymore. Believe it or not, that has an effect as well. It's not like other fighters, even mentality wise, that if they don't have a fight program but they're still in the gym and they're still practicing, Conor still has a lot going on. He's constantly doing other businesses. It looks like he's partaking of his whiskey a little bit. You know what I mean? That sort of stuff. I don't consider any of those good signs. And again, I think the UFC doesn't care. They make more money off of the events when they don't produce one of these guys that they have to write a big check to.
Okay.
And that would be Jones. That would be, McGregor. To a certain extent, it might be Stipe as a former champion. Stipe is another guy that maybe wants money. He deserves something. He's defended that belt. He was a long reigning champion. They never treated him real good. And he's another guy that really, he's got his job. He's a blue collar guy, but he's got his job. He doesn't really need to fight, to pay the rent. So what are they doing? So they're phasing him out as well. The Diaz one is the most telling because Diaz would be the perfect, he's the guy who you thought, they would never want to get rid of him. But I do believe that that's what we saw was they're starting to shed all their top money makers because it's easier, when they were renegotiate and they're headlining these cards with the O'Malley's and guys that are coming up. Those guys are not going to get anywhere near what Ngannou did if the UFC has their way.
Okay, well, let's also talk about a different caveat, Miguel. We're talking about people that move the needle. They do have a guy that's probably on his first or second contract, which is not very lucrative, that does move the needle, but he just lost his visa. They could have headlined with Kazmat in a title fight, and based on his dealings with certain people outside of the sport of mixed martial arts, heads of countries that we're not supposed to be associated with. They took his visa from him. So, I mean, that could have also been the reason. I mean, it could have been, either a 185 or 170-pound title fight. Probably not 170 based on his huge miss on this last one. But if they gave him a 170-pound title fight, we knew then maybe there was some kind of hankering with the UFC at that point. But with him out as well, you're going to have to headline an Abu Dhabi show with him if he's allowed to leave the country. We know he's not allowed to enter ours.
Yeah, it gets complicated, and Dana, who it may not be Dana's philosophy that's overall in charge of the ship anymore, but Dana, from the days of Tito Ortiz and Jens Pulver and all those guys, he will always opt for the UFC being the major power, not the fighters. They're not even in a position to negotiate, and he'll sit and wait. He'll eliminate a weight class if he has to. He's done it, throughout his whole career. So I think he's okay with this. But I think that they're leaving some money on the table in the immediate right now by not bringing. When they bought John Jones out, that would be $1 million pay-per-view probably. $1 million sell pay-per-view. If they bought McGregor probably obviously still has enough juice that he would probably crack, their top 10 in pay-per-views again. They don't have too many guys like that, and they've been okay with that this year. They're making more money than ever.
Well, here, let's talk about some of the rumors. Todd, the rumors are a McGregor Mayweather rematch with boxing one round, MMA the next round. I don't know.
That'll stay in the rumor category.
Okay, but that's a heavy rumor right now, and that's certainly something that the UFC could close the year out with on a high note. Las Vegas sanctioning it, though, that kind of is a little iffy in my opinion.
Yeah, the UFC isn't going to be able to promote that by themselves. They would never be able to. They'd have to cut Mayweather in, and you have a whole mess. Mayweather always talks a big game. The one Mayweather rumor that came up today that maybe happens is Rizin is offering him Nate Diaz. Diaz is free. Rizin has already hired Mayweather for exhibitions and stuff. And, I could see Nate grabbing a big payday, and I could see the Japanese paying appropriately for that fight.
So, Saki Kibara, at it again.
And I think that's what Nate deserved, was to be able to go out and come and be free to make whatever's the next big fight for him in terms of money, in terms of motivation and stuff like that. And, if he's going to box Mayweather, Nate Diaz right now knows in his head that he's going to have to put in the work to even be, not to do better than McGregor. I don't think, I don't even think that plays into it. But I think Nate has a certain level of boxing, and he knows he's going to have to step it up for Mayweather. So it'll be interesting in the motivational factor. It is, once again, fighting the best. Who knows what motivates Nate Diaz, but that's what you want, is a motivated Nate Diaz. And now that he's shed that yoke, who knows, he's free to do whatever he wants. It could happen, So just something to think about.
Now, Miguel, you're the matchmaker of this group here. Now, I know Prohaska versus Glover, too, is out there as something that they could put on this card. But do you think, and that's kind of what I've heard that they might do, but do you think they're going to have anything bigger, or is it just going to be that, and that's going to be kind of like the headliner, and that would be it?
Yeah, I think you can plug in a headliner. Anything nowadays without Adesanya gets couched as a relatively big fight. I'm not sure that Pereira is going to be ready for it, but that would satisfy, the immediate radar for a big fight on Adesanya and Pereira because of the, history and stuff like that.
They do a dual headline. Yeah, they do a dual headline. That'd be fantastic.
I think there's things that will cover it. And again, Adesanya, I think Adesanya is the soldier now. Adesanya is going to look back, and whether you like his style, don't like his style, think he's a great champion, don't think he's a great champion, he's probably grossly underpaid. Grossly underpaid. Because he is an attraction for one of their top 3 to 5 attractions. They keep rolling him out there opposite some of the other guys, and he's a young guy who still came up. I'm going to guess his contract is not nearly as good as, say, Ngannou's or Cerrone's or anyone like that at its base. So we'll see when trouble pops up with Adesanya. But Adesanya is your best bet for a big fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's already fighting. He's already fighting Pereira.
What's that?
281.
I'm sorry.
That's going to be 281.
Okay.
So there's no way he could do 282.
I didn't realize that was scheduled already. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But
it makes sense though, Miguel. If you're going to close up the year with a big fight, and you're looking at the current roster,
and 281 opens the year with a big fight, right? So they have Adesanya for that. So what else do they have? Go weight class by weight class. Jury and Glover, I think, is a great fight, but I don't think it moves the needle. I don't think they get to 1 million pay-per-views on that.
No.
No way kind of thing. Khamzat was an answer to that in some way. I don't know, how much of Sweden and Chechnya buys pay-per-views or how they monetize over there, but they certainly, should be able to work with that. That's been taken away from them. That might loosen some things up. So who knows? You can go weight class by weight class. I'm excited to see Leon Edwards again. See what he does. I think that he needs a quick turnaround. I think that you've already sat him on the shelf. I think it's time to mobilize him. Let him headline London. That's not bad, even if it's not your all-time greatest and biggest London card. That qualifies as a big event, And then from there, you can do something for every weight class. To cover the fact that you've left your biggest stars on the shelf now for upwards of 2 years. Mike, to answer your question, the last time Stipe was in the octagon was March of 2021. So if he fought in December, he would be going on 20 to 21 months since he fought.
There needs to be an asterisk on his record because that's a guy that's been shelved several times.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say several, at least 3 times where, like here, the coming back of Brock Lesnar. Okay, you're going to have to wait, until Lesnar in DC kind of straighten their situation out. And then Lesnar falls out. And now it's, okay, well, now we got John Jones, but John Jones isn't ready yet. He's got some issues he's dealing with outside of the cage. But once he's ready, you're getting a call there. I mean, he's getting big paydays. And, he's got some miles on him as a heavyweight. But that's a guy that needs an asterisk by his record for somebody that wanted to fight but was refused the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, he's a former champion, a decorated former champion. I think he held the belt for more title shots than anybody in the past.
Anybody else?
And it's disrespectful, basically. The treatment is not what you would expect of somebody like that or how you should treat somebody like that,
Because one day,
on top of that, it sends a message to the rest of the roster as well, that you could be the golden boy for a little while, but you could fall out of favor and be gone very quickly or never even catch on. And it's whimsical.
Yeah, eventually we're going to have Stipe on a deep dive.
Stipe.
And Stipe.
Yeah, I think it's Stipe, yeah.
We're going to, I'm from the south side of Chicago. It's Stipe.
Yeah.
So we're going to have Stipe on eventually on a deep dive. One day, you're going to hear some anger. Like there's going to be, like our deep dive when we kind of go fight to fight, we're going to go month to month of him sitting on a bench.
Yeah.
Waiting to get the phone call.
Well, closing this out, do you think we see any other big names on that card, yes or no?
Like if the list of big names is Jones, McGregor, and the people we've mentioned here, I think no. I think that this year that they're already charted the course, and it doesn't include them.
I hate to agree with you, Miguel, because at the end of the year, you always try to end big. I think you're right. They're going to have a decent pay-per-view at the end of the year, but nothing that's, oh my God, we got to buy it.
December 10th is, as of today, is 1 day less than 2 months away. I mean, you can't. That's the McGregor's presence requires, 4 to 6 months of promotion. I think. John Jones also, the big promotion that they roll out for those fights. Has to fight, and they don't have it available. So
I really just know who's not on the card. If they released any preliminary card as of yet.
I'd have to check it out right quick.
That's what interests me. We just know who's not on it.
Right.
It's UFC 281.
282.
Okay, 282.
Gustafsson versus OSP.
Go.
St. Preux.
Was it? That's it.
Yeah. Blachowicz versus Ankalaev. I like that fight. But those are the only fights so far.
Well, Gustafsson and OSP is a loser leaves town match. Gustafsson's retired twice.
I'm looking at some of these other bouts that they have announced. The Ankalaev Blachowicz fight I really like because I'm high on Ankalaev.
Is Cannonier and
Bo Nickel versus Jamie Pickett is on that card.
And Jared Cannonier and Sean Strickland.
Yeah. But, as far as big fights, I mean, Nickel,
he's a contender series guy making his UFC debut.
Yeah. But the semi-main and main, if it stays this way, would be Blachowicz versus Ankalaev and Gustafsson versus Ovin St. Preux.
Dude, you might as well have Ninja Rua fight Dan Henderson. If that's your co-main event, and I respect the old guys, obviously, but that's not a co-main event fight.
Yeah, that's a weak card right now. And, you look for something. Sure, John Jones or McGregor now saves the day, but it's a risk to not roll out your full package of promotion when you're making a big fight like that. And I think that they already have that established. And, the guys fight twice a year. It seems to be about 6 months for the really big guys. Look at John Jones when he's been fighting consistently. It was every 6 months. So they don't have that available anymore for December. So I think, that limits their options.
Todd, I stand by my statement. We will not see John Jones fight again.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very possible that you're right. That's a whole nother topic that we can get into. But for all this time to pass by, I don't think it's benefit.
Go ahead, Miguel. Go ahead.
Come on, Mike. In 10 years, you can't picture him fighting Mark Gastineau on TV or something. I don't know. I think you're certainly right if what we're trying to encompass and say is that his shining star is fading and fading and fading, and really is going to be irrelevant if he keeps going this way. They've let too much time go by. And they might roll him out, mid-card, or he might fight on Bellator or some other promotion when he's too old, and we're all going to be really sad for it.
Yeah, no, it's truly a shame. He's like the Sonny Liston of MMA. Yeah, truly a shame. Truly a shame. So,
Todd, take us home.
Yeah, take us home. And wait. Maybe the next topic we do, Todd, we talk about how this whole Mayweather McGregor thing. I think that's probably what inspired Jake Paul in order to do what he's doing. Because all he's doing is just kind of taking their blueprint and applying it to himself. But Todd, let's go, buddy.
We got to do a fallout of UFC 280. The show's too big not to. But yeah, we'll think about that. But again, this is Todd Atkins with Mike Davis and Miguel Edarati. Until next time, MMA Conspiracy Hour. Sign off.